The film opens at a covert government facility in Korea. Scientists conduct brutal experiments on dogs, aiming to turn them into weapons of war under a program called Project Silence. Meanwhile, at the Department of Security, Secretary Young discreetly hands Deputy Director Cha some extra cash as a token of appreciation for his support during the campaign. Later, at home, Cha watches his daughter, Kyumin, prepare for her departure to study abroad. She carefully packs a book that belonged to her late mother, but Cha scolds her, arguing that it's unnecessary baggage. Kyumin, clearly upset, reminds him that it's the last copy in existence before storming off to her room. That evening, Cha takes Kyumin to the airport. They make a stop at a gas station where Cha tries to pay, but the card reader is down. Joe, the clerk, suggests paying with cash, and Cha, noticing Joe's master key, accuses him of being a tow truck driver posing as a clerk. Joe denies it, and Cha leaves, promising to pay the owner later. At the airport, sisters Murin and Yora are denied boarding because Yora's passport has expired. Yora blames Murin, her manager, for the oversight, which means she'll miss her golf tournament. Just then, an elderly woman, Sunak, mistakes Yora for her cousin. Sunak's husband, Byung-hak, arrives, startling her. She almost steps into traffic, but the others pull her back in time. Byung-hak reminds her that he's her husband, and the sisters realize that Sunak is suffering from dementia. Shortly after, all these characters find themselves on a fog-covered bridge just outside the city. While most drivers proceed cautiously, one reckless man in a yellow car drives erratically, filming for social media. Another car, carrying a mysterious cage, swerves dangerously, forcing Cha to take quick action to avoid a collision. As it passes, Kyumin notices a sad-looking dog peering out from the window. Meanwhile, Dr. Young is being transported by soldiers in another vehicle. The yellow car speeds up, nearly causing a collision, and comes to a sudden stop, blocking the road. This forces a bus, carrying Byung-hak and Sunak, to make an emergency stop, narrowly avoiding a crash. However, the other drivers aren't as fortunate. A chain reaction of crashes ensues, involving nearly every vehicle on the bridge. Chaos erupts as drivers try desperately to dodge or halt, with some abandoning their cars in a bid to survive. A massive truck then appears, swerving to avoid the bus, but ends up toppling over and pushing the cars together. Panic spreads as people flee the pile-up just before the truck finally comes to a stop. A police car arrives on the opposite lane, only to crash into a crane. Back at the gas station, Joe gets chewed out by the owner for losing the money. Hearing news of the bridge disaster on the radio, Joe deduces that Cha must be stuck there and sets off in his truck with his dog, Jody, to find him. On the bridge, Cha and Kyumin are still on the opposite lane, witnessing the unfolding mayhem. The car with the cage manages to drive through unscathed, but Dr. Young's vehicle hits debris, loses control, and flips over. A tire from the wreckage slams into Cha's car, causing it to crash into the fence, while another vehicle carrying soldiers crashes into the overturned truck. The car with the cage stops just in time, and the driver checks to ensure its contents are secure. Kyumin suggests they help the injured, but Cha orders her to stay in the car while he investigates. The soldiers have already pulled Dr. Yang from the wreckage, who keeps mumbling about some dogs. As Cha tends to Yang, the soldiers check the cage car only to find the cage open and empty, with the driver's body lying in the back. The captain immediately orders a jamming of all cell signals on the bridge. Back with Cha, he attempts to call for help, but finds that his signal is dead, just like everyone else's. To his horror, he realizes that Kyumin has disappeared. She's followed a strange noise and discovered a large dog named E9 banging her head against the fence. Kyumin tries to calm E9 with some food, but just as Cha arrives to protect her, E9 bolts away. The soldiers inform Yang that the dogs have escaped, prompting them to activate the control program. Yang quickly launches software on his laptop, while the soldiers mention that a helicopter is on its way, which Cha overhears. Concerned, Cha insists that no one should be flying in the fog and reveals his position at the Department of Security. He tries to question the soldiers about the phone signal, but they brush him off, telling him to stay out of it. Frustrated, Cha attempts to grab a radio, leading the soldiers to handcuff him to his steering wheel. At that moment, Joe arrives in his truck and notices a police officer directing traffic. Seizing an opportunity, Joe offers to tow the officer's car first, hoping to make some money. Meanwhile, inside the car, Yang completes the activation of the program, which displays a lineup of dogs under its control. As the dogs, now controlled by chips implanted in their heads, turn violent, the soldiers put on extra protective gear. The dogs, incredibly fast and aggressive, begin attacking the soldiers, who desperately fight back with stun batons and helmets. Yang observes that E9 isn't responding to the control program, unsure of the reason. After a fierce struggle, the soldiers manage to lure the dogs into a cage, effectively trapping them. Yang shuts down the program to calm the dogs, just as an aircraft arrives, and more soldiers land on the bridge. Jody, Joe's dog, sees the commotion and chases after the soldiers, with Joe in pursuit. Cha demands answers from Yang, who cryptically tells him to ask his boss about Project Silence before running off to join the soldiers. The dogs are transferred into a new cage, with Yang managing the control program. However, he becomes distracted by Jody's barking, and as Joe tries to retrieve her, he is shoved aside by the soldiers. Suddenly, Cumin appears to pick up Jody, and when a soldier tries to stop her, Cha steps in to protect his daughter. At that moment, another soldier discovers a chip on the ground, realizing that E9 had dislodged it by banging her head. As the aircraft begins to lift the cage containing the dogs, the crew is horrified to see E9 perched on top. She immediately attacks a soldier, causing the towing machine to malfunction and the cage to drop. The co-pilot attempts to shoot E9, but she is too quick, killing him and then attacking the pilot as well. The aircraft crashes into the bridge's suspenders and catches fire. E9 leaps out just before the aircraft spins wildly, entangling itself in the bridge's cables, creating a high-pitched noise that drives the remaining dogs into a frenzy. The noise finally pushes the dogs over the edge, and they break free from the cage, unleashing chaos. The enraged dogs tear through vehicles and attack anyone in their path, killing mercilessly. Panic ensues as people scramble to escape, with bodies dropping left and right. Yang, facing a vicious dog, throws his laptop at it as a distraction. The dog lunges, biting his pants and dragging him toward the fence, but Cha rushes to his aid, pulling Yang out of the dog's grip. A soldier arrives and tries to electrocute the dog, but another one leaps at him, killing him instantly. With more dogs closing in, Chad, Cumin, Joe, and Jody make a desperate run for it. Meanwhile, Yora frantically searches for her sister Murin, who is caught in the chaos of the fleeing crowd. When a dog targets Murin, Yora grabs a golf club and fights it off before fleeing with her sister. Joe attempts to get into his truck, but finds a dog inside, forcing him to run for his life. Yang finds a working car, and after a struggle with some debris, Cha and Cumin jump in with him. Initially, Cha refuses to stop for Joe and Jody, but Cumin insists, and they manage to get them into the trunk just before a dog catches up. As other survivors take refuge in a bus, Cha's group drives forward, witnessing the aircraft still stuck on the bridge finally explode. The blast sends debris raining down, igniting a fire fueled by gas leaking from a truck, which blocks the only exit. The fire spreads, causing another car to explode, sending more debris flying and shattering the windows of Cha's car. Cha loses control of the vehicle as he swerves to avoid the flames, but they still end up crashing into the fence. Meanwhile, Young is desperately trying to send help, but the thick fog prevents helicopters from flying, and the bridge's height makes it unreachable by ship. Meanwhile, Young assures reporters that all resources are being utilized for a proper rescue operation. Back on the bridge, Cha grabs Young's radio and desperately calls for help, but receives no response as another dog leaps onto the car. The creature sniffs around the glass for a few tense moments before losing interest and moving on. Yang then explains that he originally developed the dogs as rescue animals that would respond to human voices, but the military repurposed them for hunting. This was done at the request of the US and European countries, who wanted killer dogs capable of locating and eliminating terrorists by recognizing their targets' voices. However, the project went awry, with the dogs becoming uncontrollably violent. The dogs were on the bridge because the military was trying to dispose of these failed experiments. Cha finally manages to contact Young via radio. Young warns them to move back to the middle of the bridge to avoid the toxic gas from the burning truck. Cha seizes the opportunity to reveal that he knows about Project Silence, which implicates the current minister. He claims to have enough evidence to bring the minister down, but Young shocks him by revealing that their own department is also involved in the project. Just then, a group of dogs surrounds their car, but another explosion sends flames shooting up, scaring the dogs away and causing smoke to fill the vehicle. Fortunately, a bus arrives to help, and the group covers their faces and dashes out to join the other survivors. As the bridge starts to collapse, the bus hastily reverses, narrowly avoiding the biggest explosion yet, caused by the aircraft crashing down. The shockwave and fire break the bridge's suspenders, causing the middle section to collapse. Several cars plunge into the sea, but the bus manages to escape just in time. Nearby, E9 has gathered her pack. Once the situation calms down, Cha introduces himself to the survivors, explaining that rescue efforts are delayed due to the fog, but assuring them that help is on the way. He lies, claiming that the phones are down because of the explosion and that the dogs are part of the Army's canine unit, suffering from a severe case of rabies. Though the survivors are skeptical, Joe supports Cha's story, and they believe it. Joe then finds an abandoned bottle of alcohol, which he pockets before pulling Cha aside for a private conversation. Joe demands the gas money, but Cha surprises him by offering a substantial reward and even a medal if he keeps quiet. Minutes later, a SWAT team descends on the bridge, heading straight for the bus to begin the evacuation, claiming they haven't encountered any dogs. Cha warns Young about the potential danger, but Young assures him that the soldiers will handle the situation. As the group starts crossing the bridge, they are horrified by the sight of bodies strewn across the ground. Suddenly, Yang spots a dog darting among the cars and steps back, accidentally triggering a car alarm. To their horror, more alarms start blaring around them. The soldiers move forward to investigate, only to be ambushed by the dogs, who had deliberately set off the alarms to lure them in. The dogs are so cunning that they first attack the soldiers' guns, causing them to fire randomly, injuring several people in the process. During the chaos, Murin is shot in the leg, and Yora rushes to protect her, using a nearby object as a shield. The dogs kill the soldiers one by one. Sunak, losing touch with reality, tries to pet one of the dogs, which viciously throws her to the ground and injures her before a stray bullet scares it away. Cha is also attacked by a dog and struggles to fend it off, noticing Joe hiding under a car. Jody starts barking, drawing the dog's attention, which gives Joe the chance to run away with her, while Cha hurries to help his daughter. Cumin is desperately trying to retrieve her bag from a dog, refusing to let go because it contains her late mother's book. Cha forces her to drop it and drags her away, but as the dog chases after them, a soldier shoots it down only to be killed by another dog moments later. Cha and Cumin race back to the bus, taking refuge in the luggage compartment. Unfortunately, Cha realizes that he dropped his radio, so he ventures out again to retrieve it. He quickly snatches up the radio, and while he's at it, grabs Cumin's bag and a flare gun as well. While waiting inside the bus, Cumin watches a video of her mother reading to her from a book in the hospital, feeling nostalgic for her father's smile. Her reflection is interrupted by Yang, who opens a hatch leading them into the main part of the bus. Yang reveals that E9 is the original dog, and all the others are her clones. E9 views them as her children, and during the experiments, she was forced to witness humans repeatedly killing her puppies. What E9 is doing now isn't hunting its revenge. Meanwhile, Cha discovers the remaining survivors hiding together inside a fallen truck. Only Joe, Jody, the sisters, and the elderly couple are left. Joe admits he's told them the truth about the dogs, and Sunak is bleeding heavily. Cha lights some torches using a flare and shoots another flare into the sky, catching Young's attention through security cameras. Cha informs Young that they plan to escape using the bus and asks for snipers to shoot the dogs. But Young refuses, concerned that reporters might capture it on video. Instead, Young promises that a SWAT team is waiting at the bridge's end. Desperate, Cha tells Young that the survivors know everything, prompting Young to abruptly end the call. As the group reaches the bus, Cumin tries to open the door, but Young stops her, fearing the dogs might get in. The dogs have surrounded the bus, so the survivors use the torches to scare them off. However, one dog manages to reach Sunak and bites her in the stomach. Bonghak uses his torch to burn the dog, forcing it to retreat, but not before it bites her foot. With the torches dying down, Joe drinks the alcohol he had found earlier and spits it at the fire, creating large flames that keep the dogs at bay. Cha pulls out the flare gun and, after a moment of tension, fires it at the ground, creating a blinding flash that distracts Yang, allowing Kyungmin to finally open the bus door. The survivors rush inside, and Joe angrily kicks Yang for not helping. Once inside, they realize the bus has no keys, so they use Joe's master key to start it. Meanwhile, Jung, under immense pressure, cancels all media interactions and faces declining support for his presidential candidacy. He receives a message from the minister, giving him the choice of whether to save the survivors or not. As the bus reaches the broken part of the bridge, Cha attempts to contact the SWAT team but receives no response. The group debates their next move, knowing the dogs are waiting outside. Kyungmin proposes a plan to hide in the luggage compartment with a camera. Tragically, Sunak passes away while they wait. When the dogs enter the bus, the group pulls a string to close the door, trapping the dogs inside. The survivors begin to emerge, but Byung-hak refuses to leave his wife. As Cha tries to convince him, the dogs find the hatch and attempt to open it. Byung-hak urges Cha to leave, staying behind to hold the hatch closed. The dogs bite Byung-hak's arm, and Cha tries to pull him away, but Joe drags Cha out of harm's way just in time. Byung-hak closes the luggage compartment right before the dogs reach him, sacrificing himself. Cha wants to return to save Byung-hak, but Joe restrains him, reminding him it's too late. The group searches for the SWAT team, only to find the area deserted. When Young learns who Cha has been talking to, he laughs, revealing that Jung was the one who started Project Silence, which propelled him to his current position. Enraged, Cha calls Young, berating him for his lies and demanding medics and reporters be ready when the survivors escape, or else he will make Young regret it. The group plans to escape using Joe's truck, but the keys are back on the bus. Young retrieves his laptop, and they devise a plan to lure the dogs into the cage. Cha volunteers to act as bait. Before he heads into the cage, Kyungmin confesses she doesn't want to study abroad and hands him her mother's book. Yora prepares her golf clubs, finally admitting to Murin that she knew her passport had expired, but didn't say anything because she was too scared to play in the tournament. Young activates a recording of Cha's voice reading from the book, driving the dogs wild. Yora starts hitting golf balls at the bus window, weakening it enough for the dogs to break through. The frenzied beasts reach the cage, trying to get to Cha. Joe uses the distraction to retrieve the keys from the bus, only to discover that E9 is still there, as she doesn't have a chip. Terrified, Joe runs to his truck where the others are waiting, with E9 chasing after him. As soon as E9 spots Yang, she attacks him. Yang grabs a stun baton and starts shocking E9, but she suddenly pulls back as the ground begins to shake. Another section of the bridge collapses, sending the cage and the dogs tumbling into the sea. E9 rushes to help her pack, but the falling vehicles drag them down as they slide off the bridge. The last dog gets trapped under some debris, and E9 desperately tries to save it. The cage slides down but gets caught at the last second, hanging precariously. Just then, Joe and the others arrive with the truck, but Cha warns them to stay back, fearing the truck's weight could cause further collapse. While waiting for the inevitable, Cha reads the note his wife left for the family at the end of the book. He then sees Kyungmin approaching with a towing hook. Cha opens the door to tell her to stay back, but E9, recognizing Kyungmin as someone who was kind to her, doesn't attack. The bridge continues to collapse, and as the last dog falls, E9 leaps after it, plunging into the sea as well. The cage slides further down, and Cha holds on for dear life. Suddenly, Kyungmin appears on top of the cage, connects the hook, and climbs inside to join him. The group then gets into the truck and speeds off, dragging the cage behind them. The bridge continues to crumble, forcing Joe to navigate through flames and debris. At one point, another section of the bridge breaks apart, and Joe has to pull off a risky maneuver, causing the cage to disconnect. When they finally reach the safe area, the survivors fear that Cha and Kyungmin didn't make it, but the cage suddenly appears, rolling on its own momentum. Once Cha and Kyungmin reunite with the group in the truck, Cha promises Joe that he'll get that medal because he truly earned it. The truck finally reaches the end of the bridge, where the authorities and reporters are waiting. Jung tries to welcome them, but Cha punches him in the face. He then throws the money on the ground and tells the reporters the whole truth. Both Cha and Yang present their recordings as evidence of the horrific experiments. Cha also announces that Cumin doesn't have to go abroad, and they share a heartfelt smile. Meanwhile, on the shore, E9 emerges from the water with her last surviving clone. She looks back at the bridge, clearly plotting her next move for revenge. So, what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you in the next video.